So let's talk about gardening with native plants. When we moved into our home 10 years ago, this is what the front and backyard looked like. Nothing wrong with it, but boring. In our developed areas, we've lost a lot of the natural habitat that the pollinators and the birds and the other wildlife need, but we can restore a lot of that by putting native plants into our yards and gardens, creating pocket habitat and connected corridors, and be able to bring some of that wildlife back again. This white stuff over here is a Canada anemone. Wild Columbine. These little white flowers you see along the way are wild strawberry. I don't have enough sun to grow vegetables in my backyard, so I grow them out here in the front yard. I've been too lazy to plant, but these are some volunteer pumpkins coming up already. There are herbs like these chives, chocolate mint that smells delicious but gets totally out of control, oregano for lots of pizza, and we've got wild geranium, wild ginger, blue flag iris. And of course, a favorite for the monarch caterpillars is the milkweed. If you are transforming your entire yard, how do you decide what goes where? You're going to want to sketch out your yard, kind of like in this drawing, figure out where is sunny and shady, what areas you use for your pets or your kids, and where the water flows. How do you get rid of the lawn and put in the pathways once you decide you want to do that? There's 4 main ways you can do that. So the easiest way is to just put down a bunch of herbicide and kill off the grass. Downside is a lot of people don't like using that much chemicals, and also you actually have to wait about 2 weeks after you do that before you can plant into the soil again. Solarization using either plastic or sheet mulch with cardboard and wet newspaper is a organic option, non-chemical, but it will take you an entire season, so that's a long haul. I like to do the quick and easy method, which is I go over to a rental store, I get a sod cutter for about $60 for 2 hours. I bring it home, I just cut all the grass right off. It will be a lot of work though. You will be really tired, you will be really dirty, really muddy, and you will have to haul the sod somewhere to dispose of it afterwards, but then you have a blank slate to start from. When we decided to take out our front yard, I did it little by little instead of all at once, and in the beginning I just put down stepping stones over mulch, and then later on I went back and ended up putting down landscaping fabric with rock over the top because the plants were just totally taking over the pathway. A lot of people worry when they are converting lawns or cultivated gardens into native gardens. They wonder, what are the neighbors going to think? And there are a few things that you can do. We call them cues for care. One of the first things you can do is create pathways and edges through your gardens. It also helps if you group plants together instead of having them all mixed up, because we're walking along here. We've got these Solomon seal that are down there. We've got the Joe Pye weed over here, a little grouping of Jack in the pulpits. We've got our ferns, and then there's May apple. In a prairie, it looks really cool when all the plants are all mixed up together, but when it's in your yard, it just tends to look a little bit nicer if they're in groupings, and it also helps you when you're weeding. One other quick trick is to use soft edges, like how we have this pen sedge along the edge of the pathway and the tall bushes behind it. If you're looking to incorporate native plants into your gardens, your first question might be, where do I go to buy the plants? You're not likely to have much luck at a big box store like Menards or Home Depot. If they do sell native plants, it's usually a rather small selection, and oftentimes they're using a seed source that comes from a different state than where you live. If you're in Minnesota or western Wisconsin, I would recommend looking first with Wild Ones or bluethumb.org, both of which have links to native plant retailers in our area. For example, in my area, folks like Landscape Alternatives and Schaefer and Outback Nursery in Hastings have both been in business for nearly 30 years and are growing from a local seed source right here within 100 miles of where I live. If you are in a different part of the country, Wild Ones does also have chapters in many other states in the U.S., or try looking with your Department of Natural Resources or another conservation organization. Oftentimes they will have lists of native plant retailers in your area. I'm talking quietly so I don't disturb the bees. There are 20,000 known species of bees in the world. 3,500 live in the United States, and in Minnesota alone there are close to 400 species of bees. Wild roses grow in prairies and woodland edges in the northeastern United States and Canada, also in my yard. When you walk through your garden, it should look alive. It's a living ecosystem. You should find spiders, predatory insects that keep the pest insects in check, as well as pollinators like bees and butterflies. Unfortunately, a lot of beneficial insect species like grasshoppers and dragonflies, butterflies, and honeybees are on the decline because of loss of habitat and insecticides, especially neonicotinoids. Let's talk about late season bloomers. When we're trying to support pollinators like the federally endangered rusty patch bumblebee, it's really important to have a nectar source throughout the growing season, including into the fall. One of my favorite late bloomers is the blue bottle gentian. They have these closed flowers that never open up, but the bumblebee is able to wiggle itself into them anyway. They can grow as a pale whitish blue or as a super dark blue, and mine are just starting to bloom now and will continue blooming into late September and early October. Goldenrods are another really great option, and there's this whole world of asters that you can plant that come in different colors and will bloom all the way into October. There are also some cool ones like this white sagebrush or silver wormwood that don't even look like flowers, but they are. You probably don't want to hear this, but fall is coming. So how do you prep your gardens for this transition and prepare for another fabulous year of gardening next spring? First of all, if you aren't already, begin composting kitchen scraps. These scraps will break down and create really nutrient-rich compost, which you can put into your gardens in the spring. And it also helps to reduce landfill waste. If you have flowers that are past their prime, don't rush to cut them down because these seed heads will provide a source of food for birds during the winter time. Many beneficial insects lay their eggs inside the hollow stems of dried plants, so leave them lying there all winter long until the insects have time to emerge in the spring. On that topic, when the leaves start falling, go ahead and pile them inside your garden beds, and it will create a nice way for the soil to stay moist over the winter time and create places for small animals to hibernate. I am a huge advocate for gardening with native plants. Native prairie plants tend to have deep roots which hold the soil in place, increase infiltration on drought tolerant, and reduce erosion. And native plants in general support the bees, pollinators, birds, and other wildlife that live in the places where we do. Having said that, I can tell you from personal and professional experience that it is really difficult and fairly expensive to convert your entire yard into native plantings, especially if you try to do it all at once. It is okay to pick off a project like this little by little and to have areas of your yard that you retain as a lawn for kids and pets to play on or people to sit and lounge in their lawn chairs. Bee lawns and fine fescue lawns offer a really great alternative to a conventional lawn that typically will not need to be watered, fertilized, or mowed more than maybe twice a year. But a hard fescue is a really great low maintenance option for ball fields, parks, and other locations where it wouldn't make sense to plant a native garden.